Hi there, and welcome to the first ever video of this channel. By the time I'm recording this, which is when I finish this first build, I don't even know how I'm gonna call my channel or anything, but I want to record this now so I can gather my thoughts here and I have it fresh in my mind right now. Yeah, welcome! It's nice to have you here. This is gonna be a channel dedicated mainly to building on The Sims, because it's one of the things I love to do the most. It took me quite a while to realize how much I liked to build on The Sims. I kind of had a knack for it. Like, I know everyone can learn to build on Sims, obviously. Yeah, I didn't even realize it until other people pointed out to me that my builds were nice, you know? I just built to have fun. Honestly, just very recently I started to check out different Sims channels out there, different Simmers like building stuff, and this is why I decided to start this channel, because I thought, hey, I can do that. I will have a lot of fun doing that. Oh, and I feel that I should introduce myself. My name's Patricia, I'm an artist and illustrator. That's what I do outside of playing The Sims. I basically am an artist, kind of trying to make a living with it. I do have a YouTube channel, social media and all of that, based on art, so if you want to check that out, I will leave links down below. Okay, so let's start with what this video is going to be about, and I'm gonna start the channel with a series of videos rebuilding the base game starter houses. I saw this going around and I'm not exactly sure what it entails. I didn't want to look too much into it because I kind of wanted to set my own rules and start it out my own way. First of all, before we start with the talk through about how I went on doing this house, the first thing I want to mention is the rules that I imposed myself when doing these starter base houses. And I don't think I've set myself too many rules because I want to be kind of flexible depending on the house and the vibes it gives me. I tried my best to keep the house style, so despite me changing a few things, I don't want to change too much this shape of the house. At least for this house I didn't change the color scheme too much, but we'll see with the other ones. But you know, basically my idea is try to keep the style of the house as best as I can. The other thing that I feel that is really important, because they are starter houses, is to keep it under 20,000 simoleons. What I did to ensure that and to know how much money I had left is to actually create a sim and put it there. Although I had a bit of a strange thing when this was over. I basically took off the sim from the house because I want the house to be empty. Suddenly, although in my build I was left like with 90 simoleons, I think. Back at the map, the house was like 17,000 simoleons. So I went back in and I changed a couple of things because I had a little bit more money left, and it only went up a little bit. It didn't went up too much because I already had most of the house already done. That was odd. In any case, I will keep doing that, and knowing that it might not be exactly perfect, I will probably move out the sim and then check if I can add something else in the next builds. Another thing that I tried to do, even though at first I didn't set myself up for this, but eventually I thought, hey, let's use the base game only content. When I finish this, I might put up the save file for anyone that might want it, and I thought there's a lot of people that have only the base game, or maybe a base game with a few expansions and not the whole thing. If that's the case, at least you can have your base game working and functional despite everything. Although in the end I did add a few debug objects that aren't from the base game, but all the functional objects like the kitchen stuff and the appliances, all of it are from the base game. It only seemed like sensible to do it that way. And we'll start with Crick Cabana. I didn't want to start with this one because the only couple of videos I watched were of this one and of I Gave a Bod. I didn't want to start with this because I had it fresh in my mind how this YouTuber rebuilt a house, and I didn't want to be too inspired by that. But the fact is that this is a really common house to start with for every simmer, I think. There's 6 base game starter houses. I asked my boyfriend, hey, which one do you think I should start with? Just to have a second opinion. And he said this one directly because everyone starts playing with this house at some point. There's something very odd about this house, like backyard is not used. The house has a very odd structure. It is kind of a very interesting build to start with. So rebuilding this build took around 3 hours. And it took a little bit longer at the end because I was like exploring the debug options because there's so many. I think the proper build was around 2 hours probably. The first thing that I did with this build, I think is the obvious thing, move the house to a side. Initially I thought that I was going to make it a little smaller in the back because it did felt a little bit too long. At first I didn't do it. I thought that first I wanted to see how I want to set everything up, the rooms and all, but eventually I did it on video, so you will see later that I kind of shortened up the house. I decided to take the blue on the sides of the house because you can see there's some, like, I don't even know how you call that, but there's some blue pieces of wood on the house, so I thought I will exploit that and go with the blue. So I struggled for a while with roof. I thought that with the blue color schemes maybe I could find a roof that was blue that looked nice enough. I didn't find any blue roof that I liked, so I had a little time between the right when I started and when I finally did the setup of the house to think about how I was going to approach it. And I think that everybody finds this house a little strange in its structure. It's like very long but also not very well distributed. It's so odd. And although I wanted to keep the basic structure, I knew I wanted to change stuff. I knew that the window part, the one that has like the windows in a round shape, I knew that that part wasn't going to be the kitchen. I just don't like the kitchen there. I feel that that little part is really pretty. It kind of looks like it will be a nice reading nook. What I did was using it for the living room, and there's a lot of nice natural light there, so I feel it just fits there. I had this idea of making a small wall right in front of the door where you can have like an entrance hall where you can put your coats and your keys, just a small separation, and then you will go into the living room, and then from the living room you will go to the kitchen. I find that you will always need a room to put your computer on, and or maybe to study if you're going to university or whatever. So I think that you need a little nook, a little space to study, and that's what I did with the second bedroom. I actually really liked the final build. I don't know what I was expecting with this build, to be honest, but I like it a lot more than I was expecting to like it when I first started building, which is really nice. And I hope you guys like it too. I was a little scared, to be honest, because anytime I build now, either I build in parts if I'm doing a gameplay, I will just build as soon as my sim has money, so I will build a room and then the next room and then so. But I don't usually have to be so careful with the money that I have to put a whole house together with less than 10,000 simoleons, which was what happened after I finished all of the outside of the house and all. I think it was around 10,000 simoleons. I love to add clutter and rugs and objects and plants to make the houses look really cozy. And after I finish this base game renovations, you will see my more usual stuff, and all of that stuff costs a lot of money, so you have to be super duper careful with that part. But also when I finished putting together the house, it felt so empty. It was lacking a lot of things. Also, I felt like lacking because of you only using the base game. Yeah, it was a little hard at a certain point. I was a little disappointed with the house, but then I think it came together really nicely. And I'm seeing it now with a fresh pair of eyes and thinking, hey, it looks nicer than I was expecting. So another thing I fought with right from the beginning, I knew that the house looked a little too tall. In a lot of my builds, I use the medium height, but in houses so small, sometimes it just doesn't look nice. And it was only confirmed that I was going to make it smaller by the time I did the kitchen, because there was a lot of wall space in the top of the cabinets and it just felt unnecessary. Also makes the house a little bit more expensive. Another thing too is for the interior of the house, I used the blues too. I don't know if you find this house really blue. I felt that it was the only color they gave us to work with. I felt that I will just go with the blues and with the whites too, because I feel that is not a harsh blue. It's a really soft, nice blue. Sorry, this is my artist part. A nice soft blue like this is kind of like calming, relaxing. Fits the location. And also, I also noticed that the houses on the sides were also like in a sort of blue-white color scheme. I always struggle when picking the floors for the bathroom and kitchen because I don't really love many of the floors. So despite me being Portuguese, I'm not a big fan of tiles. So I always struggle when deciding which tiles to put on the bathroom because obviously it's like the smartest option. And also in the kitchen, in case there's fires and all of that, the wood is not very resistant to fire, right? I don't love most of the tiles in the game, especially not the base game tiles. Some of them look nice when you see them there, but when you actually put them in the floor, they look really odd. Some of them are really shiny. I don't know, the texture it has, I just don't like it. So I struggled a little to find one that I was okay with. I wasn't expecting to like too much the floor in the kitchen, but I really like it. When I changed the tiles to make that triangle shape and the end of the kitchen, I suddenly really liked how it felt there. And I really like how the kitchen nook looks at the end. I would have liked to add a little bit more decor. Obviously, if I lived in this house and earned a little bit more, then I would have definitely added some more decor to the kitchen. I also obviously use the most cheaper appliances I could use. For example, for the fridge and the stove, sometimes I like to use the second cheapest because at least it's not as bad. I usually like to add cabinets on top as well, but it was going to be really costly to add so many cabinets. So eventually I settled up for just adding a couple of cabinets on top, which looked nice. Just a little touch to have the kitchen a little bit more full. I had to change a little my building style. Again, I usually go overboard with decorations, but I also go room by room. So when I finish filling up the room with decorations, I'll move to the next one. But in this one, I had to be conscious of the money and not spend too much in one room and then move along to the other and not have any money. I added the basics on every room and then decorated the whole house. And that was a bit strange for me. And for example, in the bathroom, I added a couple more decorations than I did maybe in the rest of the house, because I always add decorations to the bathroom because if not, it just looks empty. And I struggled with the bathroom too for a little because it looked way too big. And I didn't want to add too many cabinets because the cabinets are expensive. I went directly with a normal sink that has already like the shape of the cabinet and all, because that's way cheaper, especially for a house like this. At first, I was thinking that I might have gone overboard. I also struggled with the shape of the bathroom. Then I decided to change it a little bit and move the shower into a little container, and it actually looked really nice. I have done this before in other builds of mine, so it's not a new thing, but it went really well with how this build came along to make it a little bit nicer. In the bedroom, I struggled a little again because I couldn't go for things that were too expensive. I felt like I spent too much in the bathroom and the kitchen and I had very little money left, and I still had some things to do. But I did wanted to make it slightly cozy because, I mean, it's a bedroom, it should be cozy, you know? So I ended up adding some curtains. It's the only room I added curtains in. Oh, I think in the living room I added curtains too. But yeah, I tried curtains in different parts of the house, but curtains are expensive again. The base game curtains, I don't love most of them. I decided to just only use them sparingly in the rooms that will help make it cozy. Apart from that, the only other thing that I struggled with was in the living room, I wanted to put a little table in front of the couches, like a little coffee table. The problem was all the coffee tables were like super duper big. I was tempted to use a coffee table from another expansion because I was thinking about something round and small, but then I thought, no, let's stay with the base game. I didn't add any coffee tables, and I think it looks nice too, like it's not necessary. Then after finishing all of that, I had a certain point where I realized that I had like 1,000 simoleons and I still wanted to add decorations. The house felt really empty. This was the point when I told you about that I felt that the house was bare and that it wasn't really pretty or cozy. I was a little bit mad at myself, so I started changing the windows, the front windows, for ones that were a little cheaper, and I thought, what can I change to make it a little cheaper and all, and I struggled for a little, and then I decided to use the debug mode and find stuff that I can decorate the house with. This took a long long time. I've never been in the debug mode. Like, I've seen it in videos, but I never was there. And it was huge, and I thought there will be some way to filter it, but there isn't. So what I did was like basically explore it all from start to finish and put things here and there. It took a while, and in fact, I stopped recording at a certain point because I thought I was done with the house, but I went over and I redid a couple of things. It's not major. You will see it later in the captures in the end of the video. I changed a couple of stuff. When I realized that I still had some money left, I did change again a couple of stuff, and I added some plants, just a couple, and some paintings, again, just a couple, to, you know, have some more life and coziness into the house. I will try to make the debug part a little bit shorter unless I'm building, like, for example, for the backyard, because I felt like it took forever. I didn't think much about the backyard, to be honest, because first I was going to add a fence. I decided to use those instead, and I went a little bit crazy with what to add there. I tried to keep the look of the town with the trees and such. I didn't add like a palm tree or something that will stick out too much to make it look like green and cozy. And despite this, the backyard being nice, still a cheap house, I didn't want the backyard to look like super duper taken care of and like really clean and perfect. It was like more a little overgrown, but nice and cozy still. That is all for the first video I will have in this channel. I really hope you liked it. I really hope you liked the transformation. I'm gonna record a few videos up front before actually starting going live with this channel. If you have any suggestions and if you have any thoughts, let me know, and I'll try to use them eventually in other videos or in other series, because I will see what I will do after this ones. But I think I'm probably going to record the 6 of these ones first before even starting YouTube. So in any case, leave me anything you want to say below, anything you want me to try, or anything you want to ask. I will be happy to share any thoughts, tips, or whatever. Feel free to subscribe if you like this video. Stay tuned for the next upcoming renovations. I'm really, really excited about them, especially after finishing this one. All of these things in YouTube. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next video. Stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!